Exactly. Hey, everybody. This is Dr. Shafer on Talks with Dr. Shafer, and I am so excited today to have Andy White. Andy White is the host of Leading Our Own Way. It's a podcast that I'm going. Oh, there you go. Ooh, merch. I didn't see the merch before.
It's new.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh,
And
now
the
I'm feeling a
cups.
little jealous.
Don't forget the cups.
Ooh, and the cups. Oh, well, Talks with
You've got
Dr.
that.
Shafer we can meet you there.
Yes.
But we don't all the like the outfit merch, I reserve that for my daughter because she's an author, as you know, and she also will be on Leading Our Own Way. There it is. Oh,
There they are.
foxtails too, and wolf tails. And that's a big deal that you have wolf tails, by the way.
I know. I'm very proud and honored.
That was shipped across the pond, maybe across several ponds a
Yes.
while back. And you're one of the very few humans in the world to have a physical copy of Wolf Tales. So that's awesome.
I know. I'm
Andy.
excited. It tends to stay in my daughter's bedroom. I'm like, no, it needs to stay in the studio. But because they're reading it at the moment, and yeah,
Oh,
they're loving it.
so okay, Andy. So since they're reading it, do they have a favorite character or a favorite book?
Well, I think they're still on number one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Drew's not read it. It's Cora and Mummy who sit and read it at
Mhm.
bedtime, and
Mhm.
yeah, they're just beautiful. And but we always mix up the books, so we do one book one night and then change it up and then come back to it. And because
Yeah.
Amelie's written it so beautifully, but she's done really well with them. Like I had to read them again because it's just fantastic. But yeah, beautiful. I'm so honored that they're here, and I'm so honored that you start on Leading Our Own Way next week. We filmed it a couple of months ago, didn't we? But I'm spending 2 weeks with you and your family now.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
both Dr. Shafer of Talks with Dr. Shafer, the persona, will be there to tell my story. And then we get to do the really fun stuff, which is tell Amelie's story, because what's more fun than a 10-year-old author, right?
Well, they're both fun. They're both different, but they're both fun. And I got stuff out of you, didn't I?
You did. And I wanted to talk to you today because I think it would be really interesting, kind of put this on its head process, because as Andy alluded to, Andy is a really excellent interviewer, and he's really good at kind of going one step further with his guests than they normally do. He does his research and he asks really curious questions. And as a life coach, that's what it's all about, right? Asking the curious questions, getting one step deeper, and even getting someone to think about things that they've never thought about before. And you're really good at doing that. So I want to, since I'm going to have you on Talks with Dr. Shafer. Oh, it's good. Yeah.
Sorry, my daughter's just
No,
come.
it's real life.
Hi. What?
My baby from.
Who is?
A flying baby.
I can't stop the flies. You'll just have to wipe them away. Sorry, baby. You go and eat your food and don't let Flossie eat it. I'm just on the phone to Dr. Shafer. Remember Dr. Shafer? She sent us those lovely books. Do you remember? Foxtails. Give her a wave. Give her a wave. She's waving at you.
Hi. Oh, I love it. Your kids are just absolutely beautiful.
She's embarrassed now because she thinks you're looking at her.
Oh, sweet lady. No,
Anyway, sorry.
No, absolutely not. I always welcome the child interactions. And it's fun too when you're a physician and people have to bring their kids in because childcare didn't work out, or or maybe they stay at home with their kids, so they don't have childcare ever, and they bring them in and they feel so embarrassed. I think for most of us, we're like, no, yes, bring in these kids. They make everything so much more fun, and you get to know a person differently when you get to know them both as a parent as well as a patient, or just as a friend or individual. So I love that. But like we were saying, you are so good at doing that with your guests. And I thought this might be a fun opportunity to maybe have people from around the world that know you, Andy, pitch in with some questions that they would like answers to about you that maybe they've never got answers to. So maybe as commentary under this live, I can get some good hints on exactly what questions we need to be digging into on Talks with Dr. Shafer.
Well, do you want to ask me some questions? Do you want to dig into me and my life? Is that what you mean?
Oh yeah, definitely. We're gonna do that. But I know you're well connected and you know people from all over. You've lived all over. And it'd be really interesting to get, so if anybody out there knows Andy, definitely leave a comment, send me questions that you want answered, and we're gonna sneak them into the interview and get the answers that everybody needs to know about.
To be fair, I'm a pretty open book. I think probably the people close to me are probably sick of my journey and my story, if I'm honest. I've always been an open book, and I think I pulled myself back a little bit because sometimes you see their body language or their eyes flicker, going, "Uh-oh, here we go again." So I think this is what the podcast is about. Is it's about allowing other people to share their journeys in a safe, comfortable environment, but at the same time, so can I, and it's therapeutic for everybody involved. And if a viewer can take away personal strategies, or sometimes just a feel-good story, 95% of my guests discuss their journey in the sense of trauma or childhood trauma, and sometimes it's not even childhood, but when we get to the path, like I interviewed somebody yesterday. Oh, sorry, she snuck in. Are you going to play outside, Cora? I'm on a live right now. Millions of people. Guest appearance. Don't worry about flies. We live in Australia. There's a lot of flies. Go and fight the flies. Go and tell them who's boss. Go on, girl. I'll be with you shortly. Okay? And then we're going to go for a doggy walk.
Yeah, tell her I won't take up too much of your time because we have a whole episode coming out in the future. Yeah. So we won't take up too much of her time. I know she's got things to do.
No, that's cool. We knew this was happening, so don't worry. So my partner's out with my son. They've got a play date. We were playing basketball this morning, and then they met up. I had to get the shopping out of the car, switch it over to my car, and then bring it home, and then get prepared for this. Oh, she's back again. She never does this. It's weird. So
she hears my voice and she's coming in. I like that. It's great. No, it's fun too, because I've interviewed with you and many other people from Australia, and I actually quite love the time difference, because here I am on the other side of the globe getting ready to go to bed, and you're just starting your day. And it's so fun to get that almost like jet lag feeling when you land somewhere and you're like, oh, yeah. Totally different time and place, even though we're in the same moment in time. It's such a fascinating thing to contemplate on.
That's right. I had a pre-chat with somebody in Canada last night, and it was 10 p.m. for me and 8 a.m. for her. And it feels like we're always time traveling, us podcasters, I suppose. It's kind of bizarre. And we have to plan the interview, which is in about 4 weeks' time. And we had to navigate that difference because my clock's changing this Sunday. So it's not going to be 14 hours difference. It's going to be 15 hours difference. So, can you go and get Flossie, please? Go and pick up that food. She's just built on the kitchen floor. I can hear it. Flossie loves food. Just anything, she'll eat it because she's epileptic. Anyway, that's a whole different episode within itself. So she we had to navigate fixing those times up because my clock's changed. So it's going to be 9 o'clock to me in the morning and 6 o'clock in the evening to her, which is probably the best thing to do, But going back to the research thing that you mentioned, I do research, but at the same time, I don't do too much because we're sharing journeys and stories. I want my reactions to be authentic. I always tend to find out more than I should because I'm really interested before. But I in the pre-chats, as you remember, I didn't want to know the finer details because that's where I wanted to prod in an authentic way. But it's more like bullet point forms. But what I'm guilty of is that in the moment, in those pre-chats, I dig a little bit deeper and I go, no, don't tell me anymore.
Yeah, I remember. But it comes out to the development of really, really beautiful encounters that then you can share in podcast form, which, as you said, is both healing for you, healing for your guests to have the opportunity to share their stories, and healing for listeners. And I firmly believe that podcasting saves lives and changes lives more than we could ever imagine. And as you and I have discussed before, I'm one of those lives. It changed my life. It saved my life. And what you're doing by telling these really impactful stories and not shying away from them is really playing a part in that. And really what I think the best part of podcasting is.
That's right. I completely agree. Don't worry about it right now. Go and play with your toys and I'll be with you shortly, okay? Or you can sit there and listen and be the audience of many thousands of people. I completely agree. And I really think podcasting, I wanted to do it probably a year before I actually started it. But I wasn't there present myself. And how can I expect other people to lead their way or share their stories in that sort of manner? But I'm not present or leading my own way. So, I started to study the brain, neuroscience, human biology, all that type of thing. And I thought that was the best. Why, what better place to start than the source, right? And hence the book, Tara Swartz's book, The Source.
Yeah.
I can get them for you. She wants the pens off my board. Hold on.
Well, of course. Yeah. And I'm going to share with everybody while Andy is making sure they take care of business. So his book, How to Lead with Purpose, is also something that happened during that transition time.
Yeah. Good memory. Mike and I, my co-author, he works in NLP. We were going through very similar stages in terms of just the way we felt going to work. My back journey for me, backstory to my journey was 10 years ago. I won the National Teacher of the Year award in Australia, and that's supposed to be a beautiful thing, but it really wasn't for me at the time. I'm only starting to really embrace it now. Not that I need to anymore, but it's probably more honoring it and why I won it. And I didn't win it because I was the best teacher. I just won it because I was just real with the community, and I was real with the parents and the children, and the parents saw that and voted for me to be put in. And I didn't know until the day it was announced. But within months later, it caused a lot of trouble. Now I can't confirm if that was why I was bullied at work. And I'd been bullied as a child, but probably just the same as any other child. It didn't traumatize me, but the bullying in 2015 really did. And I lost who I was. I lost all sense of my identity. I was trapped in Australia. I was being sponsored, so I couldn't just leave. To get another school to sponsor me, and the paperwork and the money involved was quite hard. So it came to a point where, I was chronically stressed. I was throwing up most mornings before work, but I just didn't know at the time. And I felt lonely. No one really believed it in me because, it sounds like you're a defensive child and you're making it up. And that's how I felt. So I just felt I was on my own. So I stopped talking to people and I just kept it in. And we could go into a whole episode of that. But that's why we wrote the book. And the truth came out eventually. And then I thought, brilliant, I can move on, I can move forward. But I was so wrong. I had to learn to deal with anxiety. I never experienced that before in my life. I never dealt with depression. I never dealt with the feelings of not wanting to be here anymore. Not that I got to the suicidal thoughts in the sense of doing it, but I definitely got to the point of it entered my head. What if you know what I mean? So then, the truth came out. The people involved were no longer at the school, and I had to deal with it internally. But I wasn't dealing with it internally. I was trying to deal with it externally. We bought a new house, built a house, moved away eventually because I got permanent residency in Australia, so I could eventually move from that school and go to another place. And I thought that would fix me. Having a child would fix me, and it didn't. I hate to say that, but the honest, authentic truth is having my son did not fix me. And I thought it would give me meaning. And I don't mean that to sound horrible, but I realized I had to do the work inside out first. Dream job, got a dream job, didn't work out. I won't talk too much deep that because it's a very small community around here. But it didn't work out for whatever reason. And so then 2 months after leaving, I almost died. I got to a point where my organ had exploded inside my gallbladder. It's something I know is very common, shouldn't be very common. But the problem with that was sepsis had almost set in. And I got the call, my partner got the call that night saying, from the surgeon saying, prepare for the worst. It was really from that point that, we talk about crisis and making change in your journey. You can vent all you want, but sometimes when you vent, you're just releasing the undesired emotions, the negative emotions, which is great. I'm not saying people shouldn't vent, but venting doesn't allow change. It allows you to get rid of the emotions, and then it comes back again, and you vent again, and you get it back out again. But it wasn't the motivation factor for change. The crisis had to happen. And after that, I moved to casual teaching. Probably dropped $30,000-$40,000 a year, but I'm the happiest I've ever been, which has allowed me to build space for this. But I wanted to study the brain, work on me being present, work on my brain fog, my longevity, that type of thing, cellular level type things, root causes. And it's created the mental space to do this. But the bigger this podcast has got, I felt like I've probably distanced myself again from the family. So I'm kind of contradicting myself, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm getting stronger and better at the podcasting. I'm learning more about, the algorithm and things like that. And then I have to do more. And I'm like, So getting that middle ground, I'm back at that messy middle of trying to find that why I became a casual teacher. But at the same time, I'm like, well, if I want to do this full time, I've got to put this hard work in also, but I've also still got to pay for the house.
Right.
So that's a long story cut short. But yeah, that's the gist of it, I would say.
We're going to flesh it out more. And I think, two things come to mind. Well, many. One, I'm just so grateful that you're here through all of those challenges, because you're just such a light in the world, and you do so much good for your wonderful family and your community.
I don't know about that. The partner might not think that. She's like, you need to spend more time with us. You need to clean the kitchen a little bit more.
I really empathize with this, because when we are reclaiming our stories, it requires balance, because often we're coming from a place of imbalance for a variety of reasons and a variety of parts of our life. But now we're in this place where we're really leaning into our future. But the balance part, we still have to continue to navigate that and to find the balance. And it goes back to, like you said, fixing from within instead of reaching out for all the things to fix us, finding the balance within and really leaning into what we truly love. And I had a wonderful Dr. Ansung on the show. I'm trying to remember, everything blurs together now. It's been such a crazy week. We were in New York City and doing all these amazing things this week, and then this horrible hurricane hit the States, and it's been a very interesting and difficult week. Oh, we also ran into one of the vice presidential candidates in the park a few days ago. It's been a very, very it's been a very strange week here in the States for us and our family.
I hope you plugged your podcast to the politician.
Well, no, I mean, literally, Andy, I'm going off on a tangent, but it's so interesting. I have to discuss it.
Yeah, do it. Absolutely.
And it's not going to be on a formal episode, because it wouldn't make sense. But, here on our live, we can do it. So quite literally, my daughter takes guitar lessons, and she loves that. And she's also wearing this enormous American Cancer Society t-shirt that she had got as a present from the American Cancer Society to say thank you for her swimming. It was a 5-mile challenge in September of this year to raise funds for the American Cancer Society. And she ended up swimming 7 miles. So they sent her this I know, and she's 10, and it was all in Lake Michigan too, which is way cooler than swimming in a pool. This was the perfect month to do this challenge, because the water is probably the warmest it's going to be up here in northern Michigan. So she had just done this challenge. She wanted a really big shirt so she could grow into it, right? So it's way too big on her. And we're just playing in a park after her guitar lesson. My 5-year-old is playing. We meet 2 dogs that were new friends to us, and they were throwing balls for the the dogs and just having fun. And I'm talking with the dog moms and everyone's just having a grand old time. And then all of a sudden we are surrounded by Secret Service. I mean, surrounded in this nice big green park. And then walks by Tim Walz, the Democratic vice presidential candidate. And because we just got back from Kidlit TV and meeting all of these amazing people, Sharon from Sharon, Lois, and Bram, who sang the Skinnamarink Dinky Dink, that sang that song of
Everyone
our
knows that one.
childhood, right? Exactly. So we just met her. We met Craig Melvin of the Today Show, an incredible author and personality here in the States. And we met many other wonderful people there. So we're just kind of in this frame of mind that, yeah, we just walk around and we meet these people, right? So he's walking by and I just say to Amelie, oh, want to go say hi? And he hears me. He hears me and he stops and he turns and he just very politely walks, oh, hey, how you doing? And he gets down on one knee, gets down on the kid's level. He, shakes my daughter's hand. I'm pretty sure my son had literally just put his finger in his nose. So he didn't shake my son's hand. He deferred on that, but he did compliment his Star Wars t-shirt, which was a big win for my son. And it was just
You got the
amazing.
vote there.
Exactly right. And he also complimented, of course, the ACS, the American Cancer Society t-shirt, because how could you not? But I just recall when he turned to us and he kind of stopped his plan because he had just apparently done a tour of the town. And that was his formal publicity and handshaking. And now they're supposed to leave. And now he's getting off the route, which I'm sure with Secret Service is a big no-no.
Yeah.
So you see him, deter off of his route, and you just see the Secret Service like, but they handled it beautifully.
Amazing.
They handled
I
it
love
beautifully. And we have a guitar case too, which I'm sure, it just is a little, more things than they want to deal with, but they were just lovely. And Tim Walz was so gracious. And it was interesting because they played it in school and my daughter was quite concerned because she's a little afraid of politically charging things because the situation in the US is so charged. And she doesn't want to alienate her classmates that maybe don't affiliate the way she does, et cetera. But I love how our teachers handled it because they were like, hey, this isn't about a candidate or a party. This is you being a part of the political process. This is you shaking his hand and having this opportunity to meet him and ask him questions. Like, this is what we all should be able to do. And we all should be active participants in this process. So it was a really cool moment.
Yeah, very cool. I remember when I was in Washington, D.C., and we're outside the back, not the president's house, but not far away around. I can't remember. Oh, maybe it was. No, it wasn't. It was some other politician, and we just saw all the black Escalades. This was like 2011. Oh, it was amazing. So I can kind of, we didn't see the Secret Service, but I can kind of relate of how you guys felt. Maybe I can't. I don't know. But yeah, it was amazing. That's such a cool story.
It was, and of course we have pictures of it. We're sweaty, hair everywhere because we're literally tossing, we're chasing dogs in this park and tossing balls and everything and just having fun. But it was definitely an all-American moment, I think, by any measure of the situation. So it was really, really cool. But I'm thinking back to, what you were talking about with your story, and we all go through that messy middle and we all have to arrive at the place where we're in the position to tell our stories. And such a big part of that is being in that position where you're stuck in what I call the butt wheel. I have it back on I don't think you can see it on my wall, but I call it the butt wheel where, and I call it that tongue-in-cheek expression just to really kind of get your attention a little bit, get you to laugh and disarm you, and then say how simple mindset work truly is. Because like you were talking about before, when you're venting, so to speak, and okay, you acknowledge the emotion, right? I want to get a new job, but I feel stuck, right? It's how you were before. I want to get a new job, but you had reasons, your visa, et cetera, why you felt stuck. that butt, we can switch the order with the butt wheel and spin it around from the direction that keeps us stuck, because that's literally the last thing we said. That's the last thing we told our brain. And instead say, I feel stuck, but I want to get a new job, right? And as simple as it is, it's the same exact words, but the order gives you permission to move forward and focus on your growth.
Yeah. And the second stage, that story where I was in another, toxic work environment, I wasn't tied down, but I keep saying, but I knew what I was going to do. I knew I was going to leave at the end of the year, but I wanted to finish off the term with the children, and especially this new adventure of opening the school right from scratch, from the floor. I wanted to at least finish the year off. So I knew my intentions, and I knew I was going to be able to escape. And it wasn't the same experience of the bullying. It was just wasn't a good working environment, which I know millions of people go through. But because of the charge and the experience of the crisis before, I wasn't willing to stick with it. I was willing. I wanted to move. Take myself away from that situation and better myself. Unfortunately, then the hospital thing happened, which I'm glad it happened now, right? Because this book wouldn't have happened. Me and Mike wouldn't have collected, I think, 30 stories from around the world. Chapter 1 consists of stories. So we wanted to be, because people used to say, write it down. And I'm like, no, I'm not a writer. I'm not going to do this. It's that macho mentality. I'm not going to write it down. No, that's not for me. But it was so true that it was the most powerful thing I ever did. We collected stories. We mimicked another author. I forgot the title of the book, but this guy basically wrote down people's stories around how they were maybe, I don't know, not that there's anything wrong with being a dustbin man, but a dustbin man became a movie star writer. And it was about getting the fear and living on the edge and quitting your job. And this author had collected stories. So we mimicked that book. We collected stories of workplace bullying, toxic work environment, or bad management, poor leadership. And we wrote our story down. Our story's in chapter 1. Mine's called tall poppy syndrome, which means, I never heard of that term, but when I arrived, you know what the poppies are in the war, when from World War II, the poppies grew in the field with no
poppies.
Yeah. So, and then they cut them down when they're growing tall. And in Australia, when someone's doing really well, hence the award, then people want to cut you down. And somebody said, oh yeah, that's an example of tall poppy. And I didn't know what that meant. And they explained it. And that's the gist of it. So chapter 2, we started to write personal development strategies connected to the individual scenarios in chapter 1. And then chapter 3 was like the human side of leadership. And Mike and I have learned so much more, probably more in the neuroscience angle. We do have neuroscience in there, because that is the human side of leadership. But I think we could probably write a better chapter 3 now, because we've grown so much in the 2 years since we wrote it. But that's the gist of the book. But he was a published author already, a best-selling author in the UK, and I just tagged along. He kind of pushed me over the edge. I was sat in the car park before I went into work one morning and made a joke and said, God, we could write a book about this, couldn't we? And he said, well, why don't we? So if it wasn't for him, he knew the process, and we went for it. And that's the result of it. This one right here.
That's amazing. And now the beautiful thing is, now you are the kind of person, because I know this about you, you're the kind of person who then would say, well, why don't we? And you would find a way. And you're always finding a way to not only do the thing, but do the thing better, more efficiently, a better product. And so you have become that person. And so I think it's such a great example as to always, if you feel that little bit of bravery and courage to be that person for someone or for yourself, do it, because it's not just for yourself, it's for the person standing next to you, and for Cora and all these other little people who are watching us do things, because you never know when they'll be in a difficult moment and they'll recall that and say, you know what, no, I'm going to do the hard thing, because the best things only come from taking chances and doing the hard things. So
that's right. And I've always been comfortable with the uncomfortable, in the sense that, look, I went traveling the world. I backpacked around the world for 2 years. I brought me and my partner over to Australia. Not a lot of people can do that. They struggle with that. Meeting strangers and talking to them, they're my strengths. I've always had that side of me to connect. The person who bought this mic, we met on a plane, and people used to make jokes and say, "You're the sort of person who meets on a plane," and be invited to their wedding. I went to her wedding, and we laugh about it. But at the same time, I feel like there's always been a sense of being crushed for that as well. I don't know if that's because they're insecure that they can't do it, or the baseline to human, our innate ability to connect us. I think the baseline of it's just dropped because of food, because of sleep, because of layers to the discussion below that with technology, being comfortable now, disease. I don't know. We're going down a rabbit hole there. I don't know. But, that's where I feel we're going wrong. And I feel like I've always been, I don't know. I think the podcast is allowing me to be myself, and the people who want to come on the show, who are now reaching out, love that about me. And I get to honor myself in an authentic way. In Australia, I don't have my friends and family who I grew up with here. So maybe they don't understand. I don't know. But that's just my overview summary of it. I don't know the truth. I don't know the answer. I'll never know the answer. So the best way to do it is to shine through the podcast and meet many amazing people like yourself. And it just feels so comfortable, even though we've never physically met. All these people I'm meeting, we WhatsApp and we have conversations, and it's like it was never part of even a podcast, and that's the beauty in it, right? And I never used to have conversations with people like yourself. I just didn't. And now I'm having millions of them, and I love it. And I'm embracing it, and it's fantastic. And same with you, people should know a little bit more about your podcast. I see different guests all the time on yours. How many times are you filming a week? You're a busy person with yours, right?
Yeah. Well, you know me. So what I like to do for efficiency, because I think it also lends to a better product, I really like to do batch recording. So I like to schedule it, maybe a week or two a month where I'm batch recording. And that works really well. And then, of course, I love this idea of meeting people on airplanes and forming those connections and those bonds, because when you live so openly, that's when the magic really happens. And I think that's also the difference when you say, I didn't necessarily, yes, I did that, but I didn't do what I'm doing now on the podcast. I have that same experience of, if I'm scrolling on Instagram and I see something that inspires me, before I would have just been inspired, maybe I would have sent the reel to a close friend. Now I'm going to do all of those things, but I'm also going to send that person a message. And I'm going to say, hey, I love what you're doing. I want to talk to you. I want to ask you questions, and I want to share your journey with my audience. And I am so grateful for the community that has created, and the change in myself of not feeling so isolated as I did before. And instead, if something inspires me, that person, even if they're quite, notable and they're working hard, and they have a following, they don't necessarily have people truly reaching out to them and saying, hey, you did this amazing thing. This is how it impacted me, and I want to share your story. So never be afraid to reach out and do that, because it could absolutely make someone's day, month, even year, just knowing how much you impacted them and knowing that they really care about your story. So it's been really, really beautiful. And I'm always excited. If anyone's listening to this and people that like Andy that should be on the show to share their stories, please reach out to me. If you have someone that you think, no, Andy needs to have a conversation with them, reach out to Andy, because that's the beauty of this, is forming these connections and this community. Because we all the time, Andy and I will say, I'll interview someone and I'll get off the call and I'll be going into editing and say, okay, well, I've got to text Andy about this person, because I think they'd be a perfect guest on his show, because we had one conversation, but they're going to go and have a completely different conversation, and the world needs to have both of those.
Yeah, agree. And you've done that kindly, by the way. You've interviewed Utkarsh, and I'm interviewing him in a few weeks. That's going to be amazing. I loved his vibe. I loved his energy when we did the pre-chat. But also that was a small world, because Utkarsh actually contacted me, but didn't know about that we'd done met each other. But who you recommended to me, which I'm very grateful, is she's here in Australia, Brooke McIntosh, who's running around Australia next year. We're filming on the 17th of October, 8 p.m. here. She's in Perth, so it'll be 6 p.m. then. So yeah, but I won't release that closer to the run. I think that makes sense that I run that just maybe a month before the run. But she's incredible. I've been watching her. I already know too much about her from you and the media here and the reels that I follow her on. She's absolutely incredible too. And that's going to be a really insightful chat, I believe. Hoping I'll be able to get deep with her, not just about the run, outside of the run, the reasons why she's running and what happened to her in her journey will be fantastic. But you're right. I think sharing and caring and spreading different people's journeys across the different platforms, I think it's powerful. I wouldn't have had half the guests if it wasn't for some of the guests on the show as well. Karim, who I've interviewed, I think Karim now follows you, or you follow Karim. The person I interviewed yesterday was through him. Another person I'm interviewing in a few weeks is through him. It's just been a beautiful community, and I hope we attract those similar people to come and enjoy our chats as well. Because I know mine are long form. So on Spotify and Apple, I send them out in full episodes, but on YouTube, I split them into 5 parts. They go out every day, and they're around about half an hour. But I split them up, and I'm just learning. Someone gave me that idea, so to try and keep people entertained and hooked in, because I don't have the reputation for somebody to sit and watch me for an hour and a half or 2.
Well, I think it's genius though, because even just looking at the formatting. So for me, YouTube can be kind of tricky if I'm doing household chores. I'm usually listening. If I'm listening to a podcast, I'm running, I'm doing chores, I'm driving, I'm doing something where to have it interrupt frequently would be challenging for me or dangerous if I'm driving. So it's nice to, on Spotify or Apple or wherever it is you're streaming, Castbox, to be able to have the long form. And then on YouTube, where you maybe have someone's attention, you have their eyeballs, so to speak, to have the short forms. I think that's brilliant. And that's the thing I love about you. Well, one of the many things I love about you is that you're always figuring out how to do it better. And, I know it's relatively early on in both of our journeys in podcasting. But I know that in 10 years, we're going to have some incredible stories to tell.
We'll be competing at the podcast awards.
Hey, Talks with Dr. Shafer just got put on the Earbuds Podcast Collective Spotlight today.
Oh, she's beating me already. Nobody knows about me down here in this lonely country in the middle of nowhere.
No,
I'll have to move to LA or something.
No, that's not true. I mean, Australia. Oh, goodness. Everyone. And I will say, so when I was talking to Brooke McIntosh, who you mentioned before, we had some really funny moments in our conversation because, and by the way, everybody go back and listen to that episode because it's a great one, and listen to Andy's in 2025 when it comes out for her run, and go and if you're in Australia, go and find out where she's going to be and support her on the side.
She's running down the road from my house.
Yeah. Oh, so you will go.
I'm going to go and join her. Yeah.
Her. You must.
Yeah.
But she and I, oh yeah. How long are you going to run for? I
don't know about that one. Well, she'll kill me and make me look bad. So.
Okay, now I have to know how long you're going to run for, and you're going to have to film it, and you're going to have to end up putting it as a promo to bring people back, maybe when you're on a vacation from your podcast, and bring it back. Okay, now you have to go. And by the way, here's this video of me running because I'm a rock star. But and when you run, this is what I was telling Brooke, so here in the US, we have these fantastical ideas about what it's like to live in Australia, and fears too. And so we're imagining running, in the outback and all of these creatures. And so I was asking her, so do you almost step on a snake every day? And she said, yeah, pretty much every day. And I said, and are these friendly snakes or these poisonous snakes? No, they're poisonous snakes. Yeah, definitely.
I had the same issues moving here, but I live in Victoria, which is the bottom, and it's not very tropical here. I don't even know it's classed as subtropical, if I'm honest. So we do have snakes, and they are poisonous, but you don't see them half as much here to be. Well, no, you do. A school on a
Yeah.
bike ride saw one not long ago, actually, and I've never seen one, and I've been here 12 years. I
Wow.
saw one in Outback, going up to Ayers Rock in the middle of nowhere on Sturts. I think it's called Sturts Highway, and yeah, part nearly stood on it, and there was no radio, there was no signal out there, so that could have ended really, really badly. But if you do get bitten, believe it or not, lie still, because you want to stop the circulation of the blood. You don't want it to hit all the organs quick. So to preserve yourself, you've got to lie down. The problem then is if you're in the sun, if you've got no one there, you're going to get burnt big time. But that's least of your worries, I suppose. You've got to put it into perspective. But yeah, no, that would be my first guest, Jake, on Leading Our Own Way. Very similar story to Brooke. It was to do with he lost auntie and cousin to breast cancer, and he started running from Melbourne to his local town. It was 110 kilometers around his town, and then went from Sydney Harbour Bridge to his town. So that was about 1,000 kilometers. And then he went even further a few years later from Surfers Paradise. So I think it's about 1,600 kilometers. I don't know what that is in miles. And he raised over $100,000, and it was on the TV, same as Brooke. And I know hers is for different reasons. And then the story behind that, his wife, he proposed to at the end of the run. TV was there. I was there at the end of the run. A friend from the UK had come over to see him because they knew each other too. Proposed to his wife, and then I think within a year, she got diagnosed with breast cancer. So, and they got told they couldn't have children. I don't want to spoil it. Go and watch the 2 episodes, but I've interviewed Jess Ward as well, and you get the 2 perspectives and the 2 journeys and how they mirror alongside each other. It's just beautiful, and it's all worked out absolutely stunning. And there's miracles involved in that, and just the way things fell on dates with their children and being born, and they got told they couldn't have children. She almost passed away one evening. Oh, heartbreaking. And but the run is the mirror story of Brooke, and he experienced the same thing. I went off on a bit of a tangent then, but he experienced the very similar things with running, animals, wildlife, emus chasing him. I think it was an emu or ostrich, wild ones, and just incredible. I joined him on that run and ran with him for a little bit, and then we walked. I'm not going to lie, but yeah, no, it was hot as well. It was in November, so November here is quite. I think it was November, but yeah, it was phenomenal.
Your summer, the opposite of ours. So your summer,
our summer, yeah. So Brooks is going to be amazing. I think she's changed the way she's training, and I was worried that she cancelled the run. I was like, what? But 100, I think she's doing 80 Ks a day for 180 days.
Yeah.
She's insane.
Yeah, she is a powerhouse. And I think, though, there is something really interesting and impactful and empowering about her coming out and saying, I changed it. I quit. She actually said, I quit the plan. I didn't quit the purpose. I didn't quit what I'm going to do, but I quit the plan because she talked about, I have a family, right? Which, can you imagine? I have a hard time imagining doing everything she's doing because she isn't only running so many Ks a day to prepare. She's also lifting, and she also has to spend a lot of time thinking about her diet and her hydration, but she also has a business that she's running, several businesses, and she also has a family that she's helping take care of and impacting them on a daily.
Well, she told me she's running and taking meetings when she's running.
Yeah.
What? You different level.
Do you run? Do you run for sport?
I play basketball still. That's the reason why I came to Australia originally in 2008 was to play basketball, and I was part of the coaching staff there a few years later. But yeah, I used to run. I got obsessed with running. It became obsessive, and I was doing. I think again, I was probably trying to fill a hole in there for my mental strength, I suppose, after 2015. And now I don't do that. I run with basketball. I can run for hours playing basketball. I do enjoy the run, but I think that's to go on out for a run now. I'm not there anymore. But I like to lift a bit of weight just for longevity and strength, not to be bulky or anything, press ups and so, but just even the mental clarity in the morning, just set myself up for the day really well. Cold exposure, just sorted my spa out yesterday with some fresh water, freezing cold, 5 degrees sat there, and I'm going to start that again because I've had mucky water, so I've been doing cold showers. But back in the spa tomorrow. I just set myself up like that, and that's me making myself uncomfortable. So then I find when things used to stress me out, or if somebody said something nasty or whatever, I used to really think about it. I'd lose sleep. I'd worry about what people thought of me. And even just doing those little things now, if I get a negative message or a comment, I don't know, they tend to slide off my back now. It's not that I don't care. I don't want it to come across that I don't care anymore, but I don't let them affect me at that. I don't know, how can I say it? Neurotransmitter level.
Yeah. Well, and you're not letting your sympathetic nervous system override. You are creating your own weather, right? You are maintaining your own sense of self, and you're not letting other people basically change that. I talk to so we have young kids, right? And you have to figure out ways to explain things to them that they'll get, because they're not necessarily going to connect with the mindset work stuff yet, right? Or they'll
of course,
be able to come into their body, but you've got to get on their level. And one of my children was really struggling with other people impacting their sense of self and their sense of well-being. And I came up with, out of desperation, okay, imagine someone walked up to you, because she really was not getting that she didn't have to take it, that she didn't have to absorb what was being given to her. And I explained it as such. Imagine if someone walked up to you with a bag of poop and they handed it to you. Would you take it? She's like, no. She was horrified. Like, no, why, Mom, what's wrong with you? Why would I do that? But I explained to her, when someone brings bad intentions to you and unkindness with, no concern for you, and they don't have any positive hope for you, no good intention, and they hand it to you and you just take it, it's kind of like you just took a bag of poop and said thank you, which doesn't make any sense. You don't have to take everything that someone hands to you. And I think young people, they really struggle with this. They are still finding their own way externally, and just say, no, thank you. That's not mine. That's yours. I'm sorry. You've got to hold it. I'm sorry. I feel badly for you, but I'm not going to absorb that just because you brought it to me.
That's the boundary setting, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Allowing them to. That's a good one. That I'm going to use that, to be fair. Don't take poop from people, you. Don't do it.
It really, I think it was the first time I really got her to understand it, because they've always got a reason why. Well, but I care about what that person thinks, or I want to seem nice, or I want to do this. And when it comes down to it, but that's not you. You have to stay yourself in any situation you come to. You can learn, you can be kind, you can be open and vulnerable, but you don't let other people change your weather. It's not going to work out.
It's understanding the difference between nice and kind, because nice sometimes gets you burnt, but being kind is different. We've spoken quite a lot of that about with our guests. Is I don't need to be nice. I'm not nice. I'm just kind.
Yeah. Exactly.
Interesting.
And you truly are. And we're going to dive into this and so much more on an episode of Talks with Dr. Shafer in the future. And I'm so excited to be on your show soon. It's next week.
Yes. So you will go out Australian time about 1 a.m. Wednesday. So that'll be Tuesday to you. So that'll be Tuesday morning for you. Currently, it'll be 15 hours then, or 16 hours. So that would be around maybe 9, 10 a.m. on Tuesday for you on Spotify and Apple. Everything else on YouTube split up into 5 parts. So that will be 3 p.m. Australian time. So that will be around midnight for you, I think. So that won't work out necessarily for you, but it's all there for everyone to watch whenever they want to. I've been told not to put it on camera. You've got to get off camera. Mum doesn't want you on camera. No, I'm sorry. Just stay there, baby. Mum doesn't want you on camera. Sorry. Oops. So yes, next week with you, I'm with the family. I don't know if you want me to say a name, so I won't say a name, but I'm with your daughter the week afterwards. It's going to get out anyway, I suppose, isn't it?
Oh no, Amelie, she's a public person.
She is.
She's
I
very
just didn't want to be
public.
in trouble just in case.
No, you won't get in trouble. Amelie Anastasia.
Yeah. And I've got authorization live here that I've interviewed her 10-year-old. I'm not publishing it without the parents' permission.
Exactly.
But so are you telling me that was an official invite to your podcast?
Yes, of course. No, we're
I've
doing
never been
it.
invited on a podcast before.
Well, now you have.
Perfect. Love it. Sorry, I was just getting something down for her. Careful.
No, I love it. Andy, thank you so much. I'm so glad we did this. And I think we should have another chat in the future
Yeah.
beyond the podcast because it's so much fun to talk to you. And I think the Aussie American connection is a really fun one to explore. And to listeners, if you have questions that you want maybe debunked about Australia, or if you're in Australia and you have questions for me, if they could not be about our current political process, that would be fantastic. But I know we are kind of like seeing a circus from the perspective of other
I'm not very
countries.
up on the American politics, just so you know. So definitely don't ask me those questions. Even the Australian politics, even though I have worked in the government here in the education system. However, I'm still English and I'm still learning about Australia. So, but I'm sure I'll be able to get by. I did pass the test to become a citizen.
There you go.
So.
Exactly. Oh, that's so exciting. Oh, this has been amazing, Andy. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And thank you so much for having me on Leading Our Own Way, coming out next week. Oh,
and everyone who is listening and watching, make sure you subscribe to Dr. Shafer's podcast and Leading Our Own Way, and YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Go there. We need you all. And, to get the good stories out there and the great knowledge that Dr. Shafer has as well.
Well, thank you so much. And your perspective, Andy, is so special and important. So thank you so much for being here. And we'll definitely do it again. And everybody leave comments if you have questions for us, or if you have some of those insider questions you want me to ask Andy for his podcast appearance, please let me know. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much.
Have a great morning/afternoon there in Australia. We are going to bed here in the US.
Get some sleep. Get some sleep.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.